Mayor, I think both of my colleagues have shared a lot already, so I really just have some comments and then a direction in addition to your direction. So first, I just, also want to take this opportunity to just say thank you to our OPSA Director, Dr. Watson, and also to our Inspector General, White. Thank you so much for your thorough audit, and just to the entire team, the small but mighty team, just for your thorough work over the past year to get us to this moment. I think in this report, I think is very clear. I can sense it from our council and hearing from the community that there is absolutely a clear pattern of Fourth Amendment rights violation that's happening right here in our city, especially among our Black and our Latino communities citywide, but in particular, I want to call out District 2 where it's happening. And again, this was only a review of cases within 2 years, and it's only for residents that, who report it, so we don't know how many others are still out there. Oversight and public safety, I think everyone has a consensus that it's important. It's important to building trust with the community, but also to ensure that our officers are not harming members of our community. We have a long way to go. We have a long way to go as we embark on this journey to address racial inequities in our city. I know I co-chair our racial equity committee with our mayor, this really starts with us as leader on this council, one, acknowledging the harm that we are all part of. And I think that's really important. I support the recommendation that OPSA, gave today, but for me, it's so much more than just policy, right? It's after policy, it's practice, it's procedures, it's changing culture, it's literally changing the system that we have now. And I think for me, what was also really problematic today for me is that Chief stated herself that she doesn't believe that the findings are systematic, and I appreciate the mayor's line of questioning today. Just want to share with all of you that policy is important, but no policy and ordinance can do justice if we have staff that don't believe in institutionalized racism. I think all of us, me included, and everyone on this council, do need to recognize our own role in historical harm, right? That's shared accountability from this council, accountability from PD, accountability from all of us as mayor and council. As a system, we have failed. I mean, the Department of Justice report in 2019 and 2020, which I was going to share, and the mayor beat 3 of us to it, shared that we do already have disparities in our search and seizure. OPSA shared that today. Our community has shared that with us. And if we can't acknowledge the racial inequities in our system, then I feel like we've already failed. But I do appreciate the mayor's questioning today, especially around ensuring that we actually have shared language and shared understanding, which is the reason why not just this council needs to do intensive DEI training, but all of our city staff we need to make sure that that's a requirement. I do like to add an additional direction to this because I feel like if we don't do this, we're going to be running in circles and we're going to be back here again. But I think it's important for us as a council to provide direction to our city manager, given that PD is under his supervision. And I say that because, Mayor, I appreciate your request to have a broader study. I think it's great to have more data. If we can work with public advocates really on the call data, that's great. But DOJ already made kind of like they've done their research and they've shared with us the disparities. OPSA has already shared with us the disparities. And I think it's really important, one, that in addition to the study that you're requesting, the broader study, is that we direct our city manager, one, to ensure that PD is actually working with OPSA because they're under our city manager it's under his purview. 2 is also to ensure that PD is actually co-creating these recommended policy with OPSA and the community because that's the only way I feel like this will be successful. Like, we can't just ask PD to implement the policy. Like, that needs to be co-created with OPSA and the community. So that's the second directive I have for our city manager, to direct PD. And then lastly, also to ensure that we have independent outside evaluation and review of training conducted by PD, because I don't think PD should be reviewing their own training. So those are the 3 directives that I have, because again, SAC PD is under the purview of our city manager, and we only have purview over 5 city charter officers, right? And so I like for our city manager to report back to us directly on the progress. So that's a timeline on implementation from PD regarding the recommendation from OPSA. And then I also want to make sure that we ensure there's actually an internal MOU and policy in place to lay out how OPSA and SAC PD should work together in implementing these recommended policy. Because if we don't have that, what I'm worried about is that we'll come back here again in a year and say, hey, we're still working on that policy, and then OPSA is not PD is not working with OPSA. My understanding is that the city attorney did send a directive kind of language to establish this MOU back in March, but nothing has happened to date.
Can I correct that?
Okay, you can correct that.
Yes, I may. So first of all, thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem, and I'll give the floor back to you, of course. But everything that you just asked for in terms of recommendation is either implied and maybe needs to be expressed. And what I was trying to lay out as a direction, asking the manager, the police chief, OPSA, the commission, the community, and the city attorney, thank you, to work together and bring us back a timeline for recommended policy changes in each of the areas that OPSA laid out. Okay, and I think you maybe said it better than I did, but that's what what I intended. On the issue of OPSA and the police department working together or establishing the protocols, the city manager did in fact issue the directive to the police department. It is tantamount to an MOU, but it's not. It certainly could be converted into an MOU, and maybe that's something that should be talked about. But the city manager, getting input from OPSA, getting input from the city attorney, did issue the directive. So the directive is now out there that establishes the protocols for complaint procedures.
So that is, can I just confirm with the city attorney, is it?
I'm told it was out. I'm told
Vice
that it's out.
Mayor, we prepared a directive back in March, which I transferred to the city manager's office to issue to the police department because of the problems that we're having with coordinating between OPSA and the police department. The Department of Justice had recommended an MOU. OPSA had been unsuccessful to get the police department to sign the MOU, so it seemed significant for the city manager just to order the police department to cooperate with OPSA. I gave it to the city manager in March. To my knowledge, it's never been issued. I know that he was going to have some edits done and then return back to our office to see if we, I know he said that he would give me any edits back before he issued it just to make sure that it met all the requirements.
I'm told it's been issued.
So let me clarify this. First off, city attorney's right. I asked for some help here because we could not get over the hump with this MOU. She drafted some language for this directive. I reviewed it with this police department, sat down with Dr. Watson to go through it. We made some edits based on recommendations and discussions we had in that meeting. That directive was issued over a month ago. And so
So it has not been shared with our city attorney, to our city attorney?
Not been shared.
Okay. So I would like our city attorney, who is our other charter officer, to review that MOU. I would also like to see that MOU in policy as well. I think that's really important, Mayor, and I would like to make that directive. I think that's key because I think that's important for transparency. So we can make sure that happens. Thanks. Mayor, thank you for your clarity on your direction. I think that's good. I just wanted to make sure that I kind of laid out some of the, in addition to the timelines, there are just some key focus areas that I think is really important and part of the implementation. So again, that's ensuring PD is working directly with OPSA, whether that's through that MOU or that policy, ensuring that PD is co-creating those recommended policy with OPSA and the community. And again, I would also like to emphasize that we need to have an independent outside evaluation and review of training conducted by PD. So again, PD should not be reviewing their own training. And so that's the directive I like to add. Thank you.
Well, maybe we could ask OPSA to take a look at that as well. That might be.
If we give them additional staff in the budget.
That's the point. Is that we want to make sure we get additional resources,
Okay,
so we can bring that back with the plan.
Yeah. Okay. The additional resources are going to be part of the conversation because we're going to ask you to do more. Okay. All right.